As the Raptors approach a trade deadline, they're right now in this playoff purgatory where they're right in the midst of a playing position where they maybe think they can get to the next level and get into a playoff position, but also could easily fall out into a lottery position where they might try to get a better draft pick. So in today's video, we want to discuss why the Raptors are actually going to be buyers at the deadline, contrary to original belief. Let's get into it. Welcome Raptors fans, this is Amateur Sports, your source for Raptors content, always doing tons of Raptors news coverage, mock trade breakdowns, analysis, and so much more. So if you like the Toronto Raptors, you're going to love Amateur Sports. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, help us on a road to 9,000 subscribers, and if you really do enjoy the video, don't be afraid to drop a like to really help me out, grow the channel. But let's get down to business. For today's video, we're talking about the upcoming trade deadline for the Raptors. Are they going to be buyers or are they going to be sellers? Original reports, lots of NBA executives, especially near the start of December, thought this team was going to be a seller at the deadline, maybe having their eyes on players like Siakam, eyes on players like Gary Trent Jr., or others on the roster. But recently, the Raptors have had a little bit of success. There was a nice 6-game win streak. That was a couple of weeks ago now, but really got us back into a solidified position where we maybe can go make a run at a playoff spot. Right now, again, in that playing position, 6th place seems a little bit difficult to go get. We're just a few games behind that, but lots of teams nipping at our heels. I mean, right now, the way it's shaping up, it's a very close race in the play-in positions. You feel like Atlanta, who are just on the outside, are going to make a run and get themselves in that. I think at this point, they're already really in that play-in position, so it's difficult. But the Raptors, the way they're playing, even in the losses, the Raptors are playing really well, competing with some of the best teams in the league. Now, I always say the best teams, the good teams, win those tight games. The Raptors don't do it as much as I would like, but there still are some missing pieces to this team for them to go and reach their true potential. But in the midst of a spot in the playing position right now, like I was saying in the intro, sure, you can go be a buyer and try to get yourselves up to that solidified playing position. See what you can do. How good can this team be? Find the ceiling for this group of players, but also you can have the draft in mind. Know that this year you're probably going to get bounced in the first round anyways. If you do make the playoffs, why not go get a better draft pick to solidify the depth of this squad, which is clearly lacking already? Well, there's two arguments there, and they're two very good arguments. One would say, help out this team, find their ceiling. That's better for their development. That's better for their intelligence as a basketball player, playing in those big games, getting playoff experience. That's great for this young group of players. But also, contrary, get a better draft pick. That worked out pretty well last season. I understand both sides of that story. But last season was pretty difficult to watch, and I think it did kind of have a hindrance on a lot of the players on the team. So I'm prepared this season to really go and try to be a better team. But I want to be a better team this season without sacrificing any key assets for the future. Key assets for the future are going to be the main core of the roster. I want to go find players that complement these guys, but I don't want to trade Siakam, Van Vliet, Anunoby, Trent, or Barnes. I don't want to trade any of those 5 guys, and I really don't want to trade first-round picks. So you're probably thinking here, well, if you want to go get players to help your team, you're going to have to lose some assets. And I understand that, but I'm not prepared to sacrifice the future considerations of this team to be good this season. Because even if we make a big trade, let's say the big trade we could make before the deadline, go and get Myles Turner, the perfect center for this team, it seems like. Somebody who can be a really good rim protector. And also, if he has to, could do a job on the outside, spaces the floor on offense, a very good finisher on the interior, great defensive rebounder. Myles Turner would be great on this team. And if we gave away a first-round pick in order to get him, how much better do we get? Right now, we're a first-round exit team. We get Myles Turner. Our ceiling is a surprise second-round team, but they would lose in that round. I think that's the reality. Obviously, anything can happen in a basketball game. Anybody can go in the championship. The Hawks got to the Eastern Conference Finals last season, but realistically, with Myles Turner, the absolute ceiling is second round, but the likeliest scenario is that's still a first-round team, so why sacrifice the future in order to make that happen? Nonetheless, there are players you can go and acquire that help out this team without having to lose those assets. Some tradable players that we have. Chris Boucher, his market value has gone up, though I like him coming off the bench. Wouldn't mind to get a more solidified center in his place. Going to be a free agent in the season. Don't have to worry about that. Go and get a center. That's not a horrible idea. If you want to keep on to Boucher, okay, I can understand that. You've got at least some form of value as it comes to Flynn, as it comes to Mihajlovic, as it comes to second-round picks. And you've also got Goran Dragic, who is out for personal reasons right now, whatever they may be. And apparently, reports are emerging that the Raptors are almost certainly going to trade Dragic by the deadline. If that's going to happen, if teams are looking at Dragic like at somebody who can help them in the playoffs, be that bench ball handler, be that veteran presence on the team, you're able to go out and get some assets for that. And I was mentioning in a previous video, maybe about a week ago now, you can talk about having Goran Dragic going to the Orlando Magic, getting somebody like Gary Harris in return, help you with some scoring off of the bench. That would be somebody who would absolutely help our team. But other trades can be in mind as well. You'd have to take a salary dump in order to make it happen, but you can get good players. Like I said, Gary Harris can help out this team, and you can trade Goran Dragic, Svi Mihajlovic, and a second-round pick, balances out the salaries. Orlando gets some assets. They get Gary Harris off their books, which they wanted to do anyway. And, they don't have to use Goran Dragic if they don't want to, but even some playoff teams might be interested in Dragic. And apparently, again, like I said, lots of teams are calling the Raptors about Dragic. So you have the assets in place. You don't need to use the key ones, like the main 5 players, the guys who start the game for this team, or first-round picks. For me, those have to be off limits because you're going to need those if you want to be better in the next season. We have to understand where we are this season. We have to understand that it's probably going to be a first-round exit if we make the playoffs at all. That's the reality, unfortunately. That doesn't mean that it won't be a fun team to watch. It doesn't mean that this won't be a great year for these current players on the team to develop. A playoff series for these players would do a lot for their confidence, and I think it would do a lot for their development as players psychologically. Like getting Siakam in a playoff setting where he has to be like the main scorer, the best player, that would be great for Siakam, and maybe fight some of the demons from previous playoff experiences against the Boston Celtics. Getting Scotty Barnes a taste of playoffs would do wonders for him, I think, from a psychological standpoint. So I think it makes a lot of sense to try and help out this team and try to make them better, try to find their true potential, because right now, offensively, we're doing a lot of things right, and it's very entertaining to watch. Defensively, we're also doing a lot of things right. Individually, great defense, especially right now from Pascal Siakam over the last week or so. But you look at the center position and we are lacking. So there's so much extra work for players like Siakam to do as the main rim protector of this team, which is a little bit annoying to see because knowing if we had that center, our defense would just be so much better. Like, can you imagine how, we're good on defense right now, how much better we could become if we added in that true center to help out this roster. So if we can do that, get a cheaper one, like maybe a Nick Claxton, maybe you can get Jakob Poeltl without having to spare a first-round pick. Those would be some great players to add into your team that, wouldn't complete. Well, Jakob Poeltl would really change things. Claxton wouldn't change things necessarily immediately, but a good player who does help your team and can help them even more in the future. Trades are possible for the Raptors to make to get better. And if there isn't really a good trade, if there isn't really one you can make without having to sacrifice one of your core players or without having to sacrifice one of those first round picks that are very important for the Raptors, like the most important asset that we have on our team, if you can't make a trade happen, unless you include one of those, then I'm pretty comfortable to just sit and hold what we have. If we have to just end up falling a little bit out of Eastern Conference contention, as minutes per game rises for these Raptors players and maybe fatigue sets in, maybe some injuries set in, I'm okay with that. I'm comfortable with either being a team that goes and makes the playoffs or a team that just falls a little bit out of it, ends up getting a better lottery pick as a result. Like I'm comfortable with both those situations, but I really like how right now the mentality of the players on the court is go and win every single game that you play in. Go and try to win every single game that you play in. I think that's great for their development, great for their confidence. And I think it's really having an impact. Like Siakam's gotten better this season. Anunoby's gotten better this season. Fred's gotten better this season. Gary Trent's gotten way better this season. Barnes, way ahead of schedule. Like these things are great for the team, but the future has to be in mind right now. And I keep saying this on the channel. This is kind of what we'll end with in this video. Right now, every move the Raptors make really has to have the future possibility of a championship in mind. So if you're going to make a trade and it's going to sacrifice something that is going to be important in helping you win a championship in the future, and what you receive doesn't really help you long-term, only in the very short term, I don't think you make that trade. So looking at Myles Turner, looking at maybe Jakob Poeltl if you have to give away a first-round pick. Myles Turner's on a 2-year contract this year and next year. Does Myles Turner help us win a championship if we get him on our team? I don't really think so. As a result, I don't want to give away a first-round pick in order to make that happen. If you can get Myles Turner without giving away a first, then by all means, go and make that trade. Don't have to sacrifice your core. By all means, go and make that trade. But I just can't really see that happening. I imagine there's more than the Raptors interested in the player. I think Indiana is bound to get a first for the player. But things can change. Things can happen differently. But I'm comfortable with where the Raptors are at. They're going to be buyers. They're going to be trying to get their team better, but knowing that they can't sacrifice those key assets. So I'm sure Masai Ujiri's on the phone a lot. I'm sure Bobby Webster's on the phone a lot trying to make a trade happen, but with the understanding that it would be okay. It would be fine to hold what we have as well. So my prediction going into the deadline, no big moves, but I'd be surprised if nothing came for the Raptors. There's going to be a trade that happens. So as we get towards a trade deadline, do you think the Raptors are going to be buyers? Do you agree with me? Or do you think they're going to be sellers? I definitely don't think they're going to be sellers, but as far as buyers go, they're going to try to be, but may not end up really buying anything. We'll just have to see how everything turns out. But that's the end of this video. If you made it to the end of the video, that definitely deserves a like. Make sure to drop a like on the video to show your support to the channel, help us reach some new viewers. And if it is your first time watching this channel and you want 4+ Raptors videos a week, then make sure you subscribe to the channel. Help us on the road to 9,000 subs, and I promise you will not regret it. You will enjoy lots of this great content as we get towards that trade deadline. Raptors news coming at you. We'll see you again next time for another video.